Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and sorry for being absent. I'll tell you more about it at the end. Anyway, this came out, and I'm sure you've already heard that it came out, but this is the first IG report that we've been waiting for. This is kind of the little one, the small appetizer, if you want to say it that way. And then the main event, the main dish, is still out there, but I hear it's going to be coming out very soon. I think near the beginning of September. At least that's what the word is out there now. But then again, we were waiting for it, before, and then it kind of got delayed because there were people that suddenly wanted to talk to Horowitz again and alter some of the things they were saying. So, what about this? Well, it's not surprising that it's 83 pages, and I don't think any of us that read it are going to be surprised at all, because pretty much it sets down what the statutes and policies are and then how he violated them all. I mean, there's so much that he did, and I mean, they give the background facts and then going through each of the memos and the congressional testimony that he did that kind of proved that he was lying on some things. And, it just is so crazy as you go through this. All I can think of is that either Jim Comey is like delusional or he lives in a totally alternate universe, because this document right here says that he was wrong and he violated all of these different things, the policies and the rules that they have. The guy should have been fired. I mean, he did stuff that he should not have been doing. And when you read through, I don't know if you've read through the memos, but when you read through his memos, it's pretty obvious that he was doing this kind of as a way to attack Trump. And, it's pretty obvious to anybody who reads them, because I can't imagine that he ever did this to Obama. And somebody should have asked that, okay? Because he should have been asked, so if you did these memos after meeting with Trump, and I mean like after Trump called him or whatever, he did all these memos, well, did you ever do that with Obama? And the whole point that he never did, that should raise, everybody's eyebrow, because the reason he did it was because he hated Trump, period. Now, I don't care if the man is a registered Republican, makes no difference. He obviously hated Trump. He obviously wanted to take Trump down. And obviously he did not want to take Hillary down, because he gave all that information about her and then, says he's not going to charge her. Yeah, crazy. This is a crazy world. Well, anyway, if you go to page 55, which is, I think it's like 52 in the original, then you can basically see an overview of what the Office of the Inspector General says about it. And he goes through and gives his analysis of what happened. And essentially, I mean, you can't read this and say that Comey was a good guy and he didn't do anything wrong. You just cannot do that, because this is all about how many times he violated either their policies or the terms of his employment agreement. I mean, he disregarded everything because he thought he knew better. And, it even talks about this, like he thought that because he loved his country and he loved the FBI and he loved the Justice Department, he needed to do certain things that went against the policy. Well, that's the reason the policies are there, so people don't do that. Because if that were the case, then you would have all kinds of FBI agents just doing whatever they wanted to and disregarding the whole idea and the concept of classified documents, which is essentially what Hillary did. I mean, Hillary and Comey, they're like two peas in a pod, because they did the same thing. They disregarded policy because they thought they were above it. And that's what, the OIG here, he's really coming down on him. And he definitely points it out all the way through. And, he also talks about what I think is really interesting is that the OIG investigation into Comey was actually instigated by McCabe. Yeah, McCabe was the one who started the ball rolling on that, which I think is really interesting there. But anyway, and he had all this, and he failed to return them. He failed to get authority because you had to have an authorization if you were going to retain any of that stuff. And of course, Comey didn't have it, and he improperly disclosed these documents. And then, it just, if you go through, there is no way you can read this and say that James Comey is innocent. Okay, there's just no way. Now, I want to go down here for just a minute. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling, and I know you hate that when I do that. Let me find it, but, see, he even retained the stuff, and when he found out it was classified, he didn't let the FBI know right away that he still had it. Yeah, I mean, everything. The conclusion here, of course, is always good to read if you just want a summary, but it's not real short. And it goes through and it says all the things. But you have to understand that even though the Inspector General here, Horowitz, recommended that Comey be, indicted on this, really, these criminal charges, for some reason, the DOJ has said they're not going to prosecute them. Again, in my opinion, here's what I think's going on. I think that Barr knows what's coming up very soon in this IG report, because this big one that's about the FISA abuse and everything, this is actually going to incorporate all of these things that went on. So I tend to think that Barr knows that's going to result in some serious prosecutions. And this, even though Comey did a lot of things wrong and against the policies of the FBI, it's going to be hard, I think, to charge him criminally. And I think that they're probably looking at it going, he ethically was wrong in a lot of these things, and he went against our policies, but is there enough to charge him criminally? And that's really the question they have to deal with. As prosecutors, the U.S. attorneys are prosecutors in the whole DOJ thing. They're the ones that prosecute the crime. So they have to look at what they have and wonder, evaluate whether they have enough to make their case. And I think that's probably the situation with what's going on, that they just felt that the case was going to be difficult because a lot of this really has to do with Comey's intention. And while it seems clear to me when I read the memos that Comey really wanted to target Trump, it's just a hard thing to really, it's going to be hard to prove. And especially when, he's talking about why he did certain things, because I know some of you watch the Body Language Ghost. Mandy does a really good job there with that. And one of the things that she always points out is that when people's body sings with them, when they're talking, it's because they've spoken truth according to their belief system. And I genuinely think that in Comey's mind, he believes that he did absolutely nothing wrong. He did the right thing. He did what he had to do. I mean, it boggles my mind after reading through all this. It's like, how could he even think that way? But that's what I said. It's like he's in this alternate universe or something. But he believes, I think in his belief system, he believes he did the right thing. Now, for those who might be aware that there's this alternate religion that we're fighting against here that tends to look at things in a topsy-turvy way. Some call it Luciferianism, whatever, but it is where the good is called evil and the evil is called good. You know, like when we look at the Bible and we see God as good and we see Satan as bad, they kind of flip it over and make it the other way. Well, when you know about that and then you look at the kind of stuff that happened here and you're thinking, he believes that what he did was perfectly fine. It was not just fine, it was right. It was the right thing to do. So, yeah, I can't understand it, but, you know, that's the way it works. Anyway, this is from the Attorney General to Gowdy Goodlatte Nunez, and this was back in 2018. So this is a letter that's talking about Comey and his wonderful little memos and everything. So this was they had given him a request, and this was saying, yes, we will we're providing the requested memoranda in both redacted and unredacted formats for your convenience. So, you know, that's when those came out, and that's our friend Stephen Boyd there, the Assistant Attorney General, because, you know, he's done a lot of letters, and of course they send copies. This was in 2018 before the election, so, you know, the Republicans were in charge, but there's also copies to all these other people too. So this is the one I really wanted to look at here, or just point out maybe. I'm going to bump it up a little bit because it's kind of tiny and not the best. But this is an email from James Comey, and it was sent on January 7th. Okay? And it's to McCabe and Andrew G. I don't know who Andrew G. is. But James Baker, we got Ribicki. Yeah, those are the main ones. And so this is one of his little notes that he sent to them, and this was about a meeting he had with Trump on the 6th, the day before. Now, just think about that for a minute. Okay, so he has this meeting with Trump on the 6th, and then he comes out, and what does he do the very next day? He sends this email to them telling them all about his meeting. Is that slimy or what? I mean, just really strikes me that way. And so it goes through, and it's talking about, you know, what follows are the notes I typed in the vehicle immediately upon exiting Trump Tower. Okay, now let's look at that. So he typed it in the vehicle. This was a laptop of some kind, I'm assuming. What else are you going to type? I mean, yeah, you can do it on a cell phone or something, but I tend to think with the length of it that it was probably something where he actually physically typed it on a computer. So there was a computer waiting for him in the vehicle as soon as he got done with the Trump Tower thing. Why? Why? If I'm going to visit the president, probably I will not have a laptop waiting for me as soon as I get out. Although, you know, I am a writer, so it's very likely that would happen. But it wouldn't be for those purposes. It'd be for me so I would remember the event. One time I witnessed an instance of vandalism in the park, and I actually did write it down. As soon as the police took my statement and everything, I went and wrote it down. But again, that was for the writer in me. I just don't think Comey did it for that purpose. But there was something, I mean, this was forethought. This to me shows there was forethought because it was typed in the vehicle. Okay, and so then he goes on and, you know, he's talking about this, and there was something I wanted to point out to you down here. I have executed the session exactly as I had planned. Okay, now this is where he's telling Trump about the dossier. And he went into this meeting. Clapper wanted me to speak to him alone, you know, so to tell him about the dossier. And it says, I have executed the session exactly as I had planned. That whole thing right there, that phrase, and then he has to go and tell his cohorts about it. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like they planned all this together, which most of us have already known this, that they planned all this before they went into that meeting, and that they, were trying to set Trump up is, basically what they were doing there. Now, I do believe in that meeting, it's likely that they would have talked about, the dossier if it just been most of the people at the meeting. But I believe Rogers was in on that, Admiral Rogers, as the head of the NSA. So I think, it was Brennan and Clapper, and I forget who else was there. But I think the reason they needed to get the president alone is so they could separate him from Mike Rogers. Because if Rogers would have stayed in there, he would have heard what they were saying. There's no way he would have corroborated their story. And so they had to wait until Rogers was out of the room. They had to set it up so it was just Comey and the president, or one of their cohorts and Comey and the president. That's all they needed, because they just needed people who would give the same story. And yeah, since they didn't have that, they did it this way. And it could be that Rogers was, the person that kept them from saying everything and doing everything the way they wanted to. But then it goes down. It has all the things down there at the bottom. I'm not going to go through them all. Here's the shortened version if you want to read that. This is the statement that they make, and it's very clear in this that he says, as described in today's report, the OIG concluded that the memos were official FBI records. The OIG determined that Comey violated applicable policies and his FBI employment agreement by providing one of the unclassified memos that contained official FBI information, including sensitive investigative information, to his friend, with instructions for the friend to share the contents of the memo with a reporter. Additionally, the OIG determined that Comey, while FBI director, kept copies of 4 of the 7 memos in a personal safe at his home, and after his removal as FBI director, violated FBI policies and his FBI employment agreement by failing to notify the FBI that he had retained them, or to seek authorization to retain them. Comey likewise violated applicable policies and his FBI employment agreement by providing copies, following his removal as FBI director, of the 4 memos he had kept in his home to his 3 private attorneys without FBI authorization. Comey also failed to fulfill his obligation to immediately alert the FBI about his disclosures to his private attorneys once he became aware that the FBI, after Comey's removal, had determined that one of the memos included several words, the names of foreign countries being discussed by the president, that were classified at the confidential level. So if you're noticing the pattern here, it's that he failed to uphold these policies. He violated the policies and his FBI employment agreement. Okay, these are things that are going to be hard to criminally charge, but this is the majority of what he was accused of doing. Now, was it ethically wrong for him to do this? Of course. But you can't bring criminal charges against somebody for doing ethically wrong things. There's not really a criminal charge that I'm seeing here. And so it says, upon completing its investigation, the OIG provided its factual findings to the Justice Department for a prosecutorial decision regarding Comey's conduct, as required by the Inspector General Act. After reviewing the matter, the DOJ declined prosecution. And so I think, and this document here also has a link to that PDF, but I'll put the links down below. You'll be able to see them there. But I think the reason that they declined, I really think, is because while Comey violated these policies, I'm not so sure it would be easy to create a case for criminal prosecution. Okay, I hope you can understand that. So ethically wrong, yes. Did he violate the FBI policies, the DOJ policies? Oh, yes, definitely. Did he do something criminally wrong? That's the gray area. And that's why I think the DOJ probably said, you know what? We're going to tie up a lot of manpower in this, and it's not a slam dunk. So why don't we wait, because we know this other is coming, and he's going to get nailed big time with that. There's just not going to be any way out of it. The stuff that comes with the IG report, and then also the Durham, whatever Durham comes up with, yeah, he will be, James Comey will be going to jail. Anyway, I went to Twitter because Comey just has this delusion in his mind that he walks on water, I guess. And he's like, here's what he has to say. Even after all of that, it says, DOJ IG found no evidence that Comey or his attorneys released any of the classified information contained in any of the memos to members of the media. I don't need a public apology from those who defame me, but a quick message with a sorry we lied about you would be nice. I mean, how arrogant is this man? And to those who have spent 2 years talking about me going to jail or being a liar and a leaker, ask yourselves why you still trust people who gave you bad info for so long, including the president. Because they're right, James. Jimmy boy, you're going to jail. You will go to Gitmo. Yipper. And, the thing is, look at this. I mean, of course, this is the name of his book. His book is named Truth, Lies, and Leadership. That's the subtitle. Oh, and then down here, of course, he has to say about this and all this stuff. And he does speaking about ethical leadership. Oh, my goodness. Ethical leadership. This is what we're putting up with. People like this. Anyway, had another one down here that I thought was interesting. Mark Meadows, Representative Mark Meadows, put this up. He says, as the IG report on Comey approaches, this is before it was put out, August 1st, of course, we're getting the sound of silence. No Comey tweets, no softball interviews. Must be tougher when you get questioned by a DOJ Inspector General. The truth is coming, his actions will come to light, and the verdict won't be pretty. Okay, and so Comey comes back, and again, remember, this is before this report came out. I love transparency. I just wait for facts before I talk about them. I'm confident the results of all IG reports will show honest public servants worked hard to protect this country from a threat this president and his enablers won't acknowledge. And at me next time, bro. I mean, really. It's like, serious. Oh. So what? Every time we talk about Comey, we have to at him. So everybody who has Twitter, do that. Talk about Comey, put an ad in there. Make sure you let the guy know what we're talking about him. Anyway, I realized that was before this all came out. But see, he just thinks of himself as without sin. And, he wants people to apologize because we thought he was going to be going to jail. And he's a liar and a leaker. And he wants an apology. I'm not going to give it to him, that's for sure. It'd be interesting. I haven't looked at these and I don't know what I would find. But I tend to think that a lot of people who responded on this probably were not real kind to him. And I don't think they were cheering him on. So anyway, but that's what I've got for you on this one. I did do a video on my Garden Devotions channel because I just had a really rough week last week and it took out, the chronic fatigue syndrome just hit me hard. And so I have been barely getting by. I've spent a lot of time sleeping the last few days and I did get I got videos done last week, but this week, it's been a challenge. And there's this humongous festival that goes on in my town. And it started tonight. And it's going to go on until Monday evening. And, Oh, people everywhere, and just, yeah. So it's just one of those weeks where I have to get everything I need because I'm not getting out in my car and driving around this town because there's crazy people out there. And it's like, my town's usually about 10K, and it's going to be like 600,000 people that are going to go through this town this weekend. It's madness, sheer madness, and people driving everywhere and driving stupidly and driving slow and big lines of cars. And so I don't go anywhere, okay? I don't try to go I stay away. I just stay away from it all. And so I had to make sure I had all my necessary things, so I wouldn't need to go to any stores or anything like that because I don't want to even be around the town at this time of year. So anyway, I know, and it's a fun festival to go to, and I'm kind of proud that my town has it, but I'll tell you what, when you've been here and you've watched it 50 some years, I'm just kind of tired of it. I have seen enough of it. It doesn't change all that much, and if you skip a year here or there, not that much. But with that said, I probably will make one appearance, but that's about it. Because it has been a real struggle this year trying to just get things done. And as you noticed, I didn't get my videos done like I should have this week. So I hope I'm back in the saddle again and I can keep going and get some more videos out, right? Yeah, and I don't know how long they're going to take to upload because everybody's using the internet around here, so it's going to work like molasses. Those little squirrels are really going to have to work hard to try to get the videos uploaded for me. But I'm working on a solution that might allow me to have really good internet speeds so I don't have that problem anymore. I might even be able to do live streams, but I'm not promising, and even if I do them, it'll only be like once a week. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's what I've got for you. I'll leave the link to the Garden Devotions video down below if you want to go to that and you want to see me whine a bit. No, it's just kind of showing a different face of chronic fatigue syndrome. It's something called post-exertional malaise, and I had just a weird week last week that really took me out, but I'm better now. I'm gonna be okay. This is how it works, and I'm kind of used to it by now. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.